nerds, what's up? Welcome back to my episode by episode lore comparison for Rings of Power and the Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. As we've gone on, there's been less lore to talk about, so today's lore is actually very, very short, and it's mostly just my reaction to the episode, so I hope you're okay with that. Without further ado, let's get into some of the lore though. So Islander's mother is unnamed in the books. It's very little is known about her, and she may have followed her husband and children after the fall of Numenor, but it's not known. So I guess having her die before the fall of Numenor isn't really a big deal. So I think here they're probably talking about Yavanna. She's the Valar of growing fruits and growing things. So elves were taken by Morgoth and twisted. That's how the first orcs were made, and they were called Uruks. So I think that's what he's talking about here. I don't remember this Sons of the Dark thing though. Let me know. I couldn't remember or see anything about that. So if I'm just missing Sons of the Dark, I just don't remember that being a thing, but the other stuff is. This is interesting. This whole like I killed Sauron thing. Now I'm wondering if they're setting up for Adar to be Sauron, like doing the whole Darth Vader thing, you know, like Darth Vader killed Anakin, because Sauron did come disguised a lot first, especially when he was getting the orcs together and under him, so that could be a thing maybe. So that's it lore wise. Again, I want to reiterate that it doesn't necessarily bother me that they're not using a ton of lore since they can't. I do think it's interesting to see though what is rooted in Tolkien's works. So I feel really mixed about this episode, and I know a lot of you are probably going to love this episode, and I understand that. I feel like people were wanting a battle, people were wanting it to feel like something happened. I just don't necessarily feel like a lot of things were earned in this episode. And I think the best way I can describe my feelings on this episode is that if I had only seen this episode 6 of Rings of Power in exclusion, so I had never seen the rest of the show, I just sat down one night and watched this, I'd be like, wow, this is a great show. Wow, a lot happened. Oh man, I wish I understood all these character beats. I should go back and watch it. Unfortunately, because I have watched the whole show, I feel like a lot of our character development in this episode was unearned. So we have this moment, for example, at the end with Galadriel, where she literally becomes vicious, like wow, vicious, like it does not seem okay. And I talked a lot earlier about how I was really hoping they wouldn't always frame Galadriel in a good light. And I talk about that specifically in episode 1 and 2. How are they gonna address that she was kind of a bad leader? Are they gonna address these things? And then we don't address them in episodes 3, 4, and 5. Then all of a sudden we're kind of addressing them again in episode 6. And wouldn't it have been nice if we'd actually seen a development across all the episodes? I would have really liked that. Another great example is when Halbrand becomes king and Branwen is like, "You're back the king? We've been waiting so long for you." And it's like this big emotional moment. And I was like, Branwen, you haven't mentioned a king in this entire time. That's not been a part of your plot line. Where has this come from? Like, wow, wouldn't it have been interesting if we'd actually heard about that in the Southlands, that it made a deal, or if Halbrand had changed personality at all to not wanting to accept it to wanting to accept it, because it just really feels like he made that decision in like 2 seconds after a 5-minute conversation with Galadriel. So again, a very cool moment that was completely unsubstantiated, so it really meant nothing to me. I was really thinking about all these characters, and it kind of reminded me actually of my experience reading Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee, if you've heard of that book. But one of the most amazing parts in that book for me was when a character was deciding to either kill or not kill a person, and it fades to black. And in that moment, I was extremely stressed out because both options would make complete sense with this character. I could see them doing either thing. And I was so stressed, and I just like had all of this tension. And I was thinking about when Bronwyn was sitting almost dying and realizing I didn't care, but also realizing there was zero tension because I absolutely knew they wouldn't kill her character. Or when Halbrand is sitting with Adar and about to kill him and Galadriel says not, it fades to black, I had zero doubt in my mind that they were going to kill Adar. So again, there's all of these moments where they're trying to create tension, but I have no question of what's going to happen. And so the tension isn't there. Or it just hasn't been built up enough. And so because the structure, the scaffolding isn't really there for these character developments, an episode that I think in exclusion is actually pretty cool ended up just making me feel emotionless. Now I will say, I did really feel the single storyline in a good way. I think we just needed more of that. Like we really stuck with a single storyline in this episode, and it was good. It was better for it. At least it had time to develop things. It was the first time I really felt like an episode felt like it had an arc, and we've been missing that. Again, this is gonna make it sound like I hate the show. I think I'm just finally being able to articulate what it is that I've been missing so much. I will say this episode also highlighted a lot of conveniences I've been noticing the other episodes and haven't talked about, but it kind of came to a head. Okay, so Arndr hid the sword hilt magically under the inn where they were all gonna be hiding, like that was your best hiding spot? Am I supposed to believe that? Or the army from Numenor coming in to save the day at the right moment? They were sailing from across the sea. Why were they hard riding? Was there a cell phone? Did someone call up Galadriel and be like, hey, the Southlanders are being attacked right now? Like, what? That was just a little, like, it's cool that they were riding in, but you get what I'm saying? Like, that was just like really convenient in a way. The end made me actually Google to see if volcanoes, like this water going into volcano thing, I don't know. It turns out it's true. I can't fault the show. Like, yes, it's based in science, so here we are. I felt a little confused, like, so they have this dam that was built and Sauron built in a mechanism for it to be destroyed, and Adar knew this. Maybe he's Sauron. It just feels like complicated in a way that Lord of the Rings was not. Like, all of these complicated plans are very technical in a way that Lord of the Rings magic and fighting, in my opinion, usually wasn't. And maybe that's why it's feeling out of place. But okay, so these tunnels, that's fine. That's kind of interesting at least. Okay, they did this tunnel so that Mount Doom would go off or whatever. But I have a hard time feeling like Sauron built into the dam. It would make more sense if like boulders came down. Anyway, there's just a lot of little details like that are starting to stack up for me. Things that it's easy to ignore for a while and then they stack up. So overall, tell me how you thought about this episode. I feel like a lot of people are gonna like it, and that's great. I'm so glad you liked it. I am glad something happened. I'm really glad we stuck to one storyline. It made me wish that we had stuck more to one or two storylines in previous episodes. I'm interested to see where it goes, but I think that we're really starting to see the holes in our character development. So as always, if you like these kind of deep dives, please like and subscribe. That's the best way to support me. And if you want to see what I'm currently reading, you can check me out on Instagram at bookborn.reviews. I'll see you next time. Bye.